know you crazy people who want stereo setups. I mean, that's not crazy. That's just logical. But what about wet-dry setups? What about wet-dry-wet setups? What about all that stuff? It is expensive. You need these power amps and you need all this extra stuff. Now, my point is, for example, if you have a beautiful tube amp and you're going to take the send from that tube amp and you're going to put that into your effects, technically making those loud, because you already have the amazing tube sound, the dry one, the wet, dry, wet, the dry, from your amp, mic'd or whatever, and that's there. I'm thinking the effects will be flavored by that sound. So the effects don't need to be 100% all tube and 100% all pristine tube. So why not just get a cool setup to do the wet in wet with this brand new freaking Stompman from Houston Kettner? They finally did what I wanted. So you can buy this thing for $199, which is ridiculous. It's a 25 watt on 8 ohms amplifier with an amazing clean and pushed clean section, sagging resonance presence, effects loop, different mode, solo volume, but you don't need any of that. You could really take your send from, let's say, your Tone King or your Hamstead or your Soldano or whatever into the effects and return the effects into the return of this, therefore circumventing the preamp section, or even just into the input, and then you have the preamp section to even drive it a bit and make it very tubey, even though it's transistor. And then power two 112s or even 110s, because you have the clean in the, you have the dry, not the clean, you have the dry in the middle. So run a wet and a wet with two of these. That'll cost you under $400 because these are $199. But you could run a wet-dry system with two of these. You could run a wet-dry system by just doing one side. You get the point. It's the cheapest and most flexible stereo system you'll find on the market, under $400, but you're not buying a stereo amp, and that's the great thing. You're buying two full mono amps, which means put one on your board, go to rehearsal, play mono. You want to have the amazing sounds of stereo? Use the second one in addition, at home, at the gig, whatever. How about you have a mono board, but then you have a stereo board with your stereo effects, and you're pretty much just adding that to board one, and then you have a full stereo board, stereo setup. You could have, again, wet, dry, wet, wet, dry. It's all possible under $400. I am so amazed with the sound of this thing, with the lightidity of it, the weight, with how small it is, and it can go on a board and you're done. There's, of course, features like effects loop and all the blah, 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 but as a stereo setup, you don't need 3 tube amps or a big rack system or any of it. You just need to make your effects loud. Now, we're going to do a couple of things. I will show you the sounds of this with 2 IR loaders. I'm going to go into the captor, I'm going to go into the aux, and we're going to show you sounds, let's say with the Starlight and the Golden from Universal Audio. I've got them on the table right over there as my stereo effects, so that's delay and reverb. But we're also going to go into a really cool stereo thing, which is the Neo Instruments Ventilator Rotary. So that's really, that needs stereo. And we're going to wire that into these, and we're going to listen to the sounds DI, but of course being helped by, you know, the Captor X, the aux, and, you know, direct boxes. But let's listen to some sounds from that. Now be aware that the two amplifiers, I mean, look at them on the table next to each other. These two are the same price as just the reverb or just the delay. So both of your amps are running you the same amount of money as your reverb or delay would. That's freaking insane. Now, the big question, of course, is, but what does it sound like in the room? If you've never played a stereo setup in the room, you have not played guitar. I know it's cumbersome and it's a lot of gear usually, and usually an investment that you don't want to make. Well, now you can because it's under $400. I'm going to hook them up to two speakers, not even the same damn speakers. I'm going to put them left and right in the room, nicely spaced out, like one there, one there. And then I'm going to use my fake ears by 3DO, silicone ears, setting them up right where I am. And you can actually put on headphones. Without headphones, trust me, completely pointless. To be in the room, you have to use headphones. So while I'm talking, please go get them. And I'm going to take you into the room and play some stuff. And you can experience these sounds in the room with two speakers, not mic'd. We've just done that, but simulated. But actually in the room with fake ears. And you can hear stereo in the room. Trust me, if you've never done this, if you're getting stereo from a stereo amp that has two speakers right next to each other, okay, it's still stereo and it's kind of, but it needs to be wide. I've played gigs with two amps. I've done this. I've dragged two combos live with a big pedal board when I played with Campaign Like Clockwork, and it is eye-openingly amazing to do this. Now, again, look on the table. This is how big your stereo amp setup would be. Listen. Well, and let me reiterate. First of all, how amazing was that? But also, you're not buying a stereo amp. You have the most flexible setup. Run 2 boards. When you want stereo, it's right there, smack them together. Take this to your rehearsal. Take the second one in your gig bag, because this literally fits into any freaking gig bag. And have a spare. Your guitar player doesn't want to carry his big ass diesel 180 watt thing every time. You just want to work on some songs. Tell him, I'm taking my second Stompman. I'm bringing that. Have your other guitar player play through it. Have this again as a backup when you go to a gig. So one is on your board. The other one is with you whenever you need it. You need stereo, wet, dry, wet, or wet, dry. You have 2 of them, but you can use them as fully independent amps. And that is the great thing. That is the really great thing, to have the convenience and possibilities of 2 amps for the price of not even one, for under $400 for 2. I'm sold. I don't know if you are. You've heard it. You've seen it. Freaking ridiculous. Obviously, Houston Kettner is commissioning this video. They're paying me to say these things and give my opinion. No, they don't. No, they do not. I said to them, I want to make the stereo video because that's the video we need. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Just can't hide it. And obviously they need to pay for my time, and Leslie up there and all that stuff. Also, if you want to help out with making the channel run, use the links below to Sweetwater and Thomann. Please use the links, because that really, really helps. If you use a link, but then buy pack of strings, that gets me a percentage. So thank you so much for doing that. Also, I've got Patreon. So go on Patreon and support me there. Some people are doing it. Some people are nuts and they're doing it way too much. You know who you are. So thank you for doing all of this stuff. You guys are amazing. I am excited about the Stompman. I have 2. I will not give them up. They will be used quite a bit in here. The cleans are ridiculous. The drive sound, you have the links below. Animals at the end.
What I really hate seems to consume. The mind tells lies. I shut my eyes. I don't have the wisdom to see